Hello and welcome at Thomas Geiger Car. Today with the electric version of the Mercedes G-Class. Yes, we all know this car long since. We've seen prototypes, we've been driving prototypes, and we've just recently had the world premiere at the auto show in Beijing. But now it's finally time to drive the G580 to see if the electric version is as iconic and as strong as the petrols and as the AMGs. So if you want to know all about the vehicle that hits the market right after the summer break, join me on my first test drive and I'll tell you all about it. The coolest feature, we've seen it all on the web. Mercedes has done it with all the prototypes, but it still continues to attract the people, is the G-turn. The car can turn on the spot like a merry-go-round. You just stand still, find an even surface, pull the pedal at the steering wheel, and here we go. Like a merry-go-round, really fascinating, wonderful toy. That's basically it, and now we're hitting the road. For sure, the G-Wagon is a car for the boulevard, but its heritage and its approach is the adventure, and Mercedes engineers have done quite a lot of work to make this car adventure proof, as good as the petrol and the diesel versions and the AMG. So the electric G does not make any compromise when it comes to rock crawling, to water wading or all the stuff. The basic for that is the four-wheel drive with 4 motors that are independently controlled. So you can even have diff locks in a electronical way and get the car through anything that is an obstacle for him. You can have a low range gear, while other electric vehicles only use 1 gear, or if they use a second gear it's more for speed. This time it's for low range, so the car can crawl, the car can climb very steep hills, go over rocks with an ease. And the best thing is the driver doesn't feel anything of that, because the car does that all by itself. There is a function in the off-road cockpit called off-road or G-crawl, and it's kind of like it's a speedomat, a cruise control for the adventure. You just engage it, you select the speed with the pedals at the steering wheel, and the car does everything by its own. It's really impressive what kind of paths the vehicle goes and how easily it climbs steep hills, goes over rocks. And even water isn't a problem. I know we all learned in physics, water and water and high voltage is a dangerous thing, but not in the G-Wagon. Whilst the standard G-Wagon has a wading depth of 70 centimeters, here we're talking about 85 centimeters of water the car can go through. That means the battery is underneath the water, the electric motors are underneath the water, and the car just goes through like you're in a swimming pool. That's really fancy, and that's quite an achievement. Not that I want to do it with my own vehicle, but since this is a loaner from Mercedes, let's see, maybe we'll have a splash later on. So now we're in the vineyards in southern France where the development has been taking place. There are 2 iconic places that are part of the development of every G-Wagon. That's the Schöckel, the house mountain of Graz where the car is built, and this is Château de la Tour, the French vineyard close to the Mediterranean Sea, where all the teams gear up and train for the Dakar Rally, and where Mercedes is a frequent guest developing every stage of the G-Wagon. We have lots of rural roads here, we have lots of paths, and we have some really steep mountain climbing which we're approaching right now and which we're trying to figure out. So I've engaged the low range mode and the G-crawl, and now the car really does its own work. I only switch the speed with the pedals. I can always adjust it with the accelerator, but once I go off, the car does everything by itself, and I just have to steer and keep the perfect line, and the rest is done by the vehicle. Yeah, driving the first kilometers with the G580 is just an enhanced experience. The car is smooth, the car is solid, the car is resting in itself. There is no aggression, there is no effort, it's just smooth driving. For that, Mercedes has done quite a lot and packaged lots of power in the vehicle. We have 4 electric motors, 108 kilowatts and almost 300 Newton meters each. Combined, that's 432 kilowatts, roughly 600 horsepower, and a total of almost 1200 Newton meters of torque. Even the AMG version is not as powerful as that vehicle. Energy comes from a sandwich of two batteries with combined 116 kilowatt hours of power, giving you enough electricity for a range of almost 500 kilometers, 473 to be precise. And the car accelerates like hell, 0 to 100 in less than 5 seconds. Top speed is 180 kilometers per hour, not as fast as many other electric SUVs, but more than fast enough for a G-Wagon, because you don't want to drive any faster with a G-Wagon just because of the wind noise. If you drive faster, you hardly hear your own word and not even be able to talk with your passengers. While the car is pretty fast on the road, it is not the fastest when it comes to charging. DC charging is pretty decent with 200 kilowatts, but when it comes to AC charging, it's just 11 kilowatts. We have lots of cars much faster, and that is a bit of a disappointment in regards to the price and the positioning of the G-Wagon. Now we're in really steep and rough terrain, something you wouldn't walk as a pedestrian, as a hiker, but you can easily go with the G-Wagon. And it's just steering. Everything else is done by the vehicle by its own. When you drive that with a petrol car, you always have to engage the locks. You have to disengage them that you can hold your steering angle. In this case, it's just pulling the pedals, going down, taking it nice and easy and slow, and the car is crawling its way up just as easy as you can imagine. And you don't even have to worry about the rocks underneath when it comes to the battery. Now we're still looking for some traction because the tire is always the weak point. You just have to get enough grip, have to get these almost 1200 Newton meters of torque on the ground, and then it is as smooth as you can imagine. And you don't even have to worry about the rocks, as I mentioned before, because there is an armoring underneath the battery, 3 centimeters thick carbon fiber steel composite material that is saving the battery, and it is so strong and durable that you can even put all the weight of the vehicle on a single point and it won't break and it won't hurt the battery. So that's quite impressive. Not that any customer will really do something like that, but this is something you can achieve with the G-Wagon only. And the good thing is, it is totally silent. If you first go there and if you open the window once, you don't hear the noise of an engine, you just hear the birds beeping and you hear the stone chips underneath the tires, and that's it. Another cool function that you can only do with 4 independently controlled electric motors is the G-steering. It's a kind of an off-road assisted drift that really gets you around the corners pretty easily. You just accelerate and the car goes around and easily makes very tight U-turns. Usually you have a turning circle of more than 30 meters. With this function, it shrinks to almost half of it. Thanks for joining me on that first test drive with the electric Mercedes G-Wagon. An opportunity I've been waiting for so long. I've been curious since I've seen the first pictures, and I must admit, this car really took me off. I'm a G-Wagon fan by heart, and I'm not a huge fan of electric vehicles in general. But in this case, Mercedes has done a tremendous job, because even with the electric drivetrain, this car is first of all a G-Wagon, and second, an electric vehicle. No compromises on-road, no compromises off-road. Just a great everyday car. There are only 2 disadvantages. The one is more a legal than a technical thing, and it's the load. You can just load 400 kilos. You can't tow anything with the vehicle. That's a bit of a pity, but that is European law, not an engineering thing. The other downside is the price. It starts at roughly 140,000 euros, which is quite an amount of money for a car like that. Still less than the AMG versions, so almost a bargain if you compare it to other G-Wagons, but overall quite a sum of money. But most of all, this is a proof that the G-Wagon is stronger than time. The dinosaurs might have been extincted, but this car is already on the road for almost half a century. And with the electric drivetrain, I'm pretty convinced it continue for another decade, 2 or 3. And I'm happy to drive every single year of it. Thank you, Shishya, Sai Chen, and goodbye.